Welcome guys to the Bet Online Salute Detroit podcast. Head to Bet Online, get your 50% off bonus. I'm just here to give you a little recap on what we witnessed a couple of minutes ago. SC wins again. A lot of points put up. Another 500-yard game by Caleb Williams. No complaints there. One thing, and we mentioned, me and Phil talked about it earlier this week. Depth was a big issue. Uh, no Mario Williams, no Jordan Addison, uh, no Goforth. Um, and I showed today on the defense side of the ball, there was a lot of missing keys there. A lot of yards given up also, which is a big factor. And we also talked about that earlier this week on the Detroit podcast, that what is the standard, and they're just not at the standard. They're giving up too many points and too many yards. Let's talk about the positives, though. Let's talk about how Caleb Williams is putting this team on his back, and he's becoming a Heisman candidate. He had an amazing performance today, over 400 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. SC went 5 for 5 in the red zone, 11 for 15 on third downs. You consistently do that. Oh, we got a guest here. Ryan, how you doing?
My guy, couldn't leave you hanging. Had to come join for a few. What's up, baby?
What you say? I can't hear you.
Oh boy, can you hear me? Let me see here. Check. Can you hear me? I'll leave and come back.
All right, we'll give Ryan some time, but as I was saying, SC 5 for 5 in the red zone tonight, 11 for 15 on third down. Those are big time numbers. Every time you win on third down, you're guaranteed to win the game. Anytime you go 5 for 5 in the red zone, the chances are likely that you'll win the game. Those are the types of things we wish we would saw 2 weeks ago, and things happen. But for the offensive standpoint, you don't have your top 2 receivers, and you had 2 guys on the bench stand out today. Kyle Ford, who I've always been big on, showed out today. 114 yards, I believe, on 8 receptions and a touchdown, which you can't. I mean, that's just waiting your time. That was one of those things he took zoned out the noise, and he contributed to today's win.
Coach, can you hear me?
Nope, no sound. Man, contributed to today's win. I like that I saw a lot of Austin Jones today. I was also a big fan of Austin Jones earlier in the season when he was getting the ball, especially Stanford game. He got some carries. He is going to be a factor, I believe, down the line as the season closes out. I can say this: SC has now won 3 more games than they won last year, and that's one of those things that a lot of people. I will. This is what I will say: this is a rebuild. This isn't a national championship or bust season. This is a rebuild, and for the path that they are for a rebuild is amazing. I have no complaints with so far where they are or where they're standing offensively, I guess I should say. I am going to put something on Lincoln Riley, and I think it needs to be put on Lincoln Riley because nobody has said anything about this, but how they recruited defensively in the portal is not good enough, and they did not build enough depth defensively in the portal. And I think that's one of the things that they overlooked, and things happen. But coming up this recruiting season, they're gonna have to do something defensively to get better, because the Pac-12 is starting to show that everybody's a first to 40 lead. So SC is going to be in the Pac-12 for one more year. So the first to 40 is not going to or because everybody's going to go first to 40. So they're going to have to make some key stops. There's one thing I did say, like SC always knows when to make a stop, and they were like that earlier in the season, and we saw that tonight. They made it. They had a big stop, had a big turnover, interception that turned into a touchdown. I think that was the key factor for today's win. You know, they won by 8. Won by 8 points. No, yeah, it won by 8 points. So I think that interception to a touchdown is a big win. Ryan, you got sound now?
Can you hear me?
Nope.
I think it's on your end then. I think it's on your end. I'll text you.
But as I said, that's the key factor. I think that's SC got the stop. That now makes them plus 14 on the year in turnovers, which is great. Travis Dye, 114 yards. He's on pace to get 4,000 yards Pac-12 career. That's one of those things that's also great, man. I have no complaints offensively. They did very well. When, like I said earlier, when you have 2 of your star receivers and your 2 receivers are stars and then everybody else picks up the weight, that's a good sign. Now we have to go build defensively on the defensive side. You have to go build on the defensive side. I think it might be. What about now, Ryan?
Can you hear me?
It was my headphones. I'm sorry.
Oh man, I could hear you the whole time, but you couldn't hear me. I was like, I know my stuff's working, but what's up, baby? How you doing? Fight on. Good win.
A good win, man. Solid win, good win. I was just saying, when you go 5 for 5 in the red zone, 11-15 on third down, that's a win every week. You know, you just, unless you're playing a way better team and they just have way better stats, that's one of those things that, 5 for 5 and 11 for 15 was just amazing tonight. Another thing that all the receivers that stepped up that weren't stars, like we talked earlier in the season when we was on with the Desai guys, and I was a big fan of Kyle Ford. We did the hype video. You heard me talking about Kyle Ford. That's one of the guys I thought was going to be a big deal, and tonight he showed he was a big deal. When we were talking earlier, like I said, he might not go day one, but somebody who takes him as a 4th round pick is really going to be happy with that body size and that frame and how he catches the ball. You know, a big night for Kyle Ford. I think he earned himself more playing time. I don't know where he is as far as years, but if he comes back next year, they just get better. We always talk about the future, and I always talk about this with Phil, Ryan. People seem to forget that this is just a rebuild. This isn't that championship or bust. This is just a rebuild, you know? So 7-1 on a rebuild is great, right? I mean, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, I think people I know Lincoln Riley and the whole staff they've said this isn't a rebuild. They're contending for a championship this year, but let's be realistic. I think people forgot this was a 4-8 team dumpster fire last year. And now they're 7-1 and going to be ranked probably top 10, probably go slide up to 8th after this win or so. And, really competing for that college football playoff. But 2 things I got to just, cause I heard you talk about it earlier. First off, Kyle Ford, love Kyle Ford. He's a Corona Centennial kid, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Love Kyle Ford. I've been waiting for his breakout because the talent's there. Have met him a few times. He's a super good, humble kid. So glad he got his opportunity. Definitely thinks he's earned more playing time with this. And then with the defense, and this will be, I think, fun to talk about with you, being kind of what you played and whatnot and your pedigree. Defense to me in college football now, and we've kind of talked about this off air and Slack and stuff, but it's almost non-existent when it comes to big games in college football to a degree. Obviously, you have to get certain stops, you have to have turnovers and whatnot, but you even look at the historic Georgia defense of last year, who had probably from top to bottom the most talented roster we've seen since the Miami defense. And they gave up 42 to Alabama in the SEC championship game. So it's nowadays, it's you need to just make critical stops 3 to 4 times a game and you're good. But do you think that's sustainable? Or is that something that I mean, I'm not saying this SC defense is a championship defense. I'm not saying that. So don't put that on me. But I'm just saying that I think too many people look at the defense and say they can never get where they want to be because the defense, where I don't think that holds you back as much as it used to.
So this is what I would say, and I agree with you 100%. When I played, it was keep the team under 21 points and you'll win. Now it's keep the team under 35 and you have a chance to win, right? So I mean that is where the game has changed, right? Here is where I differ with SC. I think schematically, it's not very sound, and I'm pretty sure you heard me say this 100 times. It's not sound. Like when you even watching it tonight, you got to do running down the field, right? And you see it multiple times. When compared to when you see Alabama Georgia game, there aren't big wide open plays, right? It's just dudes making plays on dudes, right? And when I was talking to Phil earlier this week, I was like, the standard right now is Georgia. You put this SC team on the field with Georgia, they may score 42, but they may give up 70, right?
Yeah.
You know, that it might be a game where the wise guys are going to have, Vegas are going to have to put this over at like 80 something points, which you rarely see. So that's what I'm saying. The standard is where we are. And so like I titled is numbers matter. This is one of the times where, and I said this earlier before you got on, I'm going to put this on Lincoln Riley. I think he overlooked recruiting the defense. And it showed today, right? There's no depth. You miss Goforth. You miss Gentry. There's no reason why Mario Williams, Jordan Addison aren't playing, and you got guys that are stepping in and making big plays. But now you're missing Goforth, you're missing Gentry, and it's like it's obvious. And that's not fair to the defense. It is what it is. And like I said, it's a rebuild. But I'm going to kind of put that we've been fluffing Lincoln Riley a little bit too much, and I think that's the one flaw that he did have with building this team that he's built. Hopefully 100%. He fixes it. You know what I mean? Like, I hope he fixes it, and I'm going to say this one more time. It's just a rebuild. I understand he's competing for a national championship, but walking in what he walked in, I don't see it. I just don't think they're ready yet.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ready yet.
I totally agree. And, to be critical of Lincoln Riley, which is, hard to do because of how great this season has already been in the rebuild. But, if we have to nitpick, it is exactly what you said. The focus was on the offense. They definitely got a lot of, transfers on the defensive side. I mean, obviously a lot of the starters are Shane Lee from Alabama, but you had Romello Height from Auburn. He's injured. You get Gentry, you mentioned, injured. Corey Foreman, was going to hopefully have a breakout year. He's been off and on injured this year. They've had injuries in the secondary. Obviously, Goforth out tonight. So it's the guys who were supposed to make an impact have been injured. And then to your point, they don't have the depth behind them. And that's where we'll need to see the maturation and the growth and the defensive recruiting, year in and year out moving forward, which I think we'll get. I mean, I don't think there's any reason to think that. But we also have to expect, as great as a coach Lincoln Riley is, it's not like he's ever been known as having great defenses down there at Oklahoma. So I think we just have to know that it's probably going to be one of those where it'll be better, but we got to expect these to be kind of shootout games. But I think it'll get better with the depth piece going, kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah, like so. Even after I did the live with Jamal, I wasn't upset about the loss. It wasn't the end of the world. We're still on track to have potentially go to the Pac-12 championship, right? And it's not like it wasn't like national championship or bust this year. And like Jamal made a good point. When you have the lead the whole time and you lose in the last minute and you lose by one, that's great football, right? And Utah was supposed to be the top of the crop in the Pac-12. And when you walk in and you compete with those teams, it shows the strides that you have made from this year to last year, which are great leaps and bounds. So I don't have any issue with that. The main issue I have is, and I always go back to it, it's scheme. I don't think the scheme is good enough. And I understand people like Lincoln Riley doesn't really care about defense and giving up the points and this and that. What I'm starting to see, though, is that this conference, and we have to play another year in this conference, everybody's a first to 40 team, right? So we've seen it 2 games in a row now, like everybody's a first to 40 team. I mean, we the next two games aren't going to be that big a deal, and they're going to put up points, and it's going to be like we saw in the beginning of the season. But if you talk about the teams that are competing, they're trying to score 40 points also. So it's can't. When are we going to get past the last one to have the ball and just be dominant? That's I'm good with 42-35. I'm good with 42-28. That's fine. But the back and forth, that's I just from the football that I'm used to, and I know the times have changed. That scares me a little bit still. I don't like the back. I don't like the back and forth. It's sitting on the edge, which makes a great product. It makes a great product.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but that part of it is just like, let's just at least make a stop. And I could say that. Go ahead.
Well, I just say, I mean, to that point, we're up 16 tonight, and the whole time you're like, well, this game's not over. We know they can go down, and they bring it to within 2. So exactly that. Like, it's just like, come on, that's when we got to just step on the throat and be done, because against Arizona's a young budding program. You may not agree. I personally think they're going to be a top 5 or 4 program in the Pac-12 next year. I think they got a lot of good stuff coming in. But in this season, like, that's a game where you want to just see them step on the throat and pull away and win by 30, 40 plus, because they were already up 16. So yes, to your point. Yeah. We need to see that killer mentality from the defensive side, which we're not seeing right now.
No, 100%. So they got the pick, they scored, they go up. They should have ran away with the game right there. Right. And that's what separates that. Here's a perfect example. You're watching Ohio State, Penn State today. Right. And all of a sudden you see a touchdown, you see a rushing touchdown, you see a pick six. Next thing you know, Forrest Gump is running out of the front yard. You know what I mean? Like, Ohio State's running away from Penn State. That is a championship caliber team, and that's where you have to get to become a championship caliber team. And we don't have that yet. We're not running away with it yet because there's still holes, and that's okay. I'm good with the holes. What I'm also happy with is that receivers are deep, man. And I think they're all happy. I know they say winning solves everything, but I think they're all happy. Michael Jackson III was the big recruit, right? The one that was supposed to redshirt. And now he's getting the ball. You know what I mean? Like, he's getting the ball and making plays. Like, they're all happy.
And he's an explosive return man, you can tell.
Yes. He took a risk today, and he was like, all right, I got the first down, right? So that's one of the things, like, that's one of the things. So the rule is, when you go on punt return, you want to get a first down. And so he got that first down even after he ran backwards. And, oh, boy. 16. I can't think of 16's name. Help me out.
No, Taj Washington.
Taj Washington had a big night today. And he's young, right? Yeah. So, that receiver room is pretty deep. And to be in a room like that and you not have a great weekend, knowing that next week this could be my week at any moment. And I keep telling Phil, number 2, Brandon Rice is going to win a game for us, and the game he's going to win for us is on November 19th. Mark my word. Now, I'm not giving it yet. The game he's going to win for us is on November 19th. He's going to have a breakout game. He's going to make a big catch that matters, and because you're going to win because of a catch from Brandon Rice. I will tell you that right now. I will say this. There's something that you mentioned a couple of times, like the Trojans just need 3 stops. 4. I'm sorry. They need 4 stops. They need 4 stops. Yeah. They need 4 stops. And that's probably the best thing I've ever heard somebody say, especially with today's game. And like you mentioned earlier, and when you look at it, they got 4 stops. They got a 3-and-out when needed twice. They got an interception, and they had another stop. They went for it on 4th down, I believe, and they stopped it.
Yeah, right for the half. Yeah.
So they got 2 3-and-outs, and they got an interception. And they went out. They got a 4th down stop. Those are 4 stops that are needed, right? And like I said, the interception is what I think turned the game around. And they always create. I've been saying this all year. They always know when to create a turnover or create a stop when it's needed. Mm-hmm. And that showed tonight. I'm really impressed with tonight. I can't be upset so much about the defensive performance. I just wish I could see better scheme, but I'm impressed with tonight because of what they were able to do coming off a loss, back-to-back road games, not healthy, and just dying by numbers. They're able to get on the plane tonight, and they, like you said, they'll go back, and then on Tuesday they'll probably be the number 8 team in the nation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I was most impressed, Alfred, is with the injuries. You mentioned it, with the unhealthy and how they're able to still perform and overcome certain things. And when adversity struck, I mean, that's what, maybe this isn't a championship caliber built team yet from offense, special teams, and defense, but they definitely, I think, have that championship mindset in the sense that even when Arizona came roaring back, they had the 2-point conversion attempt to tie the game, and then SC goes back up 2 scores because they have that championship mindset. My other big takeaway, which is not a by any means smart analytical thing at all, it's just common sense that everyone out there knows, and that's that Caleb Williams is, I think, the best quarterback in the nation. I'm the dude, 411 yards, 5 touchdowns. I actually said, I'll give myself a little pat on the back. I said after the Utah performance, I thought tonight he would actually have his best statistical performance of the season. And lo and behold, there he goes out and does it. So the dude is special. Love watching him play. You knew, Alfred, on that last 4th down attempt, I love Lincoln Riley just going for it there on 4th and 1 to salt the game. You knew he wasn't handing that ball off. You knew Caleb was keeping the ball, getting the first down himself. And that's the mentality you need if he's going to will this team to a Pac-12 title and potentially a college football berth. So I was extremely pleased. Obviously, some stuff to clean up. Obviously, some disappointment on some of those defensive letdowns overall. But from an overall standpoint, team standpoint, super pleased with this win and just ready to get them back to LA.
The best part about this whole thing, and I don't know if anybody even noticed it, the best part about this whole thing, Jordan Addison was there, Gentry was there, Mario Williams was trying to go, he wasn't able to go, he has street clothes on. When every time a receiver made a big play, Jordan Addison, Mario Williams right there, cheering his guys on. Gentry was in the huddle on timeouts, in the huddle, trying to get guys going. This is a complete team, right? Yeah. And when you look at it, and you talk about culture, it starts within your locker room. And great teams police themselves. And I think these guys are starting to police themselves. And I think that culture change and what I've talked about at the beginning of the season, you change the culture of this thing and you start to get it rolling, it's going to roll, right? And I think they're on their way. I think that they don't even think that they're there yet, and they're not even complacent. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think that we're just getting started. Like, we haven't even scratched the surface. And
exactly.
You know what I mean? So the culture is changing there. They're becoming better players. And when you talk about Caleb Williams, 13 is just a flat out dude. And I mentioned this on the podcast, and I said, Lee Corso said he's the only legit Heisman candidate west of the Mississippi. So everybody's going to want to see him. That's why all the games, have you noticed, all the SC games have been primetime East Coast games, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock starts. That's not by coincidence. It's because people want to see 13. All right, watch this. I'm going to put my team on my back, and I'm going to try to beat Utah, one of the top teams in my conference. You know what I mean? And then a Pac-12 network game at 4 o'clock, that doesn't happen, right? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people want to see 13, and he has a legit chance. So, I mean, Georgia plays Tennessee next week. That's a big Heisman game, right? Yeah. It kind of sucks because we play Cal next weekend, and Cal's going to play above their heads because of the whole weekender rivalry thing. But, you know, they played well early against Oregon tonight, but it's not going to be what you expect. I will counter you on this one. I think Caleb Williams' best statistical game will be in 2 weeks when they play Colorado.
Oh, okay. That's fair. For obvious reasons.
When they play Colorado. Yeah, but like, this guy's a Heisman candidate trophy. And if he looks up in the stands, he sees number 11, he sees number 3. Those dudes won Heisman's there at SC playing the same position. So it's 100% possible. I will say this. I'm happy Austin Jones got some carries tonight. That dude's a hard runner. And I don't know what happened. I haven't been speculating. I always said I just hope he gets the ball more, and he got the ball tonight, and he had really good runs, and I hope they continue to give him the ball.
Yeah, I think because we've talked about that a lot on our show too, because of how great of a 1-2 punch him and Travis Dye are. And I don't think anything necessarily happened. I think Dye just kind of stole the backfield, and it was just too hard to take him out of the game because of how good he is in pass pro, how good he is receiving out of the backfield, and then just how he knifes through defenses, even with his limited size and strength, but he still like just churns out yards. But I love Austin Jones. It was great seeing him. When he's in there, it's like he always turns positive yards. He always turns positive plays, does great things. So love seeing him get that. And yeah, I just can't wait to see this team continue to progress. And, it'd be interesting, Alfred. I was at USC Media Day. You were talking a little bit earlier and before, or just like a few minutes ago, about the culture of this team and how this is a full team. This is just scratching the surface. And at USC Media Day, like, it obviously came up. People asked about last regime to this regime, what's the culture, and all the players kind of talk on it. And respectfully, I would love to get some of these dudes, the Kyle Fords, the guys that have been there in this program for the last 2 to 3 seasons, the Nick Figueroas, who's a 5th year super senior who's been here through it all. I'd love to sit him down, like, off camera, like off the record, and just be like, all right, bro, like, what's really, like, tell me really how big of a culture shift this is. Like, don't give me the coaches talk, the nice talk about you want to look good about your old regime and whatnot, because you can tell it's a huge difference. They won't come out and say it like that, but you can tell it's a massive culture change, and obviously it's for the better.
I will. When we're off the air, I will tell you a story that I've heard somebody there, like Sark, when the Sark incident happened. I'll tell you that story.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of like turns me away, but no, definitely. Culture's great, man. I'm happy right now with what the Trojans are doing. Like I said, I'm happy with tonight's performance. Toulouse is getting better and better and better. Like, I just, Nick Figueroa is getting better and better and better. 31 actually, and he's a youngster. He's starting to shoot off the edge a lot too, and he's not, his production is good, but he's not making plays, if that makes sense. But so if you were sitting out and watch, like, oh wow, dang, he has a motor, he's making, but he's not making plays. But his time will come. We'll learn about him real soon. So definitely, I'm satisfied with the Trojans. I'm happy with tonight's win. Caleb Williams did what Caleb Williams did. The youngsters stepped up. Depth was the issue, but they overcame it. And if you want to become a championship team, you have to overcome those things. And I think tonight was, and always, when me and Phil always talk, I always say this is what this week's test is. This week's test was to overcome depth. We didn't know the status of who was playing or not for sure. It was all questionables, and we was like, okay, well, let's overcome it. And they overcame it. You overcome adversity, you become a championship team, and they're handling each step one by one. They're handling these tests with no problem. I don't know if you saw my grade for them. I still put them at a C plus B minus, but that gives them plenty of room to grow. It's tough love. But I'm not a hater. I know where they could go, and I know where they are, and I just want them to get there.
Yeah, that's tough love for sure. C plus, B minus, but hey, I respect it. Because it's funny, because you hear you talk, and it sounds like you're talking like they're an A, but hey, but it's just being, real and keeping it close to the vest. So I appreciate it. I'm pumped on the season.
Yeah, but I also know what the standard is. Like I say, the standard is Georgia, so that's where I wanted to get to. So if you compare it, and I'll use this example again, if you compare it, if Georgia's the A, then you have to really realize where USC is right now. So that's all it is. That's the bell curve. So hopefully we get to it and it will be all right.
There you go. That's a great point.
Yep.
That's a great point.
Yep. Overall, Trojans win. We're happy. We'll see you guys Tuesday. We'll have the film. That's what makes us better than everything. Ryan, I thank you for joining us. You want to let everybody know what you guys are doing with the LAFB?
Oh, sure. Of course, man. Yeah. So we're all family here. LA Football Network, salute to Troy. Me and Jamal do the LA Football podcast, covering all LA football, but make sure to check out LAFBnetwork.com for everything LA football. But Alfred, keep up the great work, my brother. Appreciate you. Glad you're with us and part of the team.
Thank you. Remember, you guys go over to Bet Online, get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Football's tomorrow, basketball's back. If you want to win some money, do not bet on the Lakers. You're guaranteed money there. So thank you, Ryan, man. I thank you for joining me. This is the Salute to Troy LAFB podcast brought to you by Bet Online live game recap. See you guys Tuesday.
Fight on.
Fight on. Oh man, hold on.